Introduction to Why Do White Elite Fear Black Power Race. Control and the Architecture of Fear. There is no Satan, only power. For centuries, fear has been explained through myth when societies could not openly admit what they were protecting. They invented supernatural enemies to justify and control evil spirits. Devils, curses, and demons became convenient explanations for resistance, unrest, and rebellion. Mythology served a practical purpose. It redirected attention away from systems of power and toward imagined forces that could not be confronted, voted out, audited, or dismantled. This book begins by rejecting that diversion. There is no Satan coordinating the behavior of nations, shaping laws, funding prisons, influencing media narratives, or determining who has access to education, capital, and political voice. These outcomes are not the result of metaphysical conflict, they are the result of decisions made by people, embedded in institutions, and enforced through policy. History records this plainly. When enslaved Africans organized spiritually and materially in the Americas, laws were written to criminalize literacy, assembly, and independent worship. When formerly enslaved people briefly gained political power during Reconstruction, organized terror followed, openly, publicly, and with names attached. The Ku Klux Klan, founded in 1865 by Nathan Bedford Forrest, did not emerge from superstition or chaos. It emerged as a strategic response to black political participation, land ownership, and coalition building in the post-Civil War South. Its violence was not random. It was corrective. Power does not hide when it is confident, it hides when its legitimacy is threatened. Before going further, one term must be defined clearly. When this book refers to the white elite, it does not mean white people as a whole, personal prejudice, or individual moral character. It refers to a historically formed ruling class, political, economic, legal, and cultural decision makers, whose power developed during periods of racial hierarchy and colonial expansion, and whose institutions continue to shape outcomes long after the language of that era has faded. Many individuals within these systems may not consciously view themselves as guardians of dominance that does not alter the consistency of the results those systems produce. When stripped of symbolism, fear leaves records, budgets reveal priorities, laws reveal anxiety, surveillance reveals perceived threats. Punishment reveals what a system is trying to prevent, voting restrictions, policing strategies, zoning laws, prison expansion. Educational boundaries and media framing are not random developments. Their responses, examined together, they tell a consistent story. Black power has been treated not as a social good to be integrated, but as a risk to be managed. The record becomes unmistakable in the 20th century. In 1969, just 22 years old, Fred Hampton was organizing what he called the Rainbow Coalition in Chicago, uniting black, Latino, and poor white communities around shared material interests. His work emphasized discipline, political education, and collective survival. He was not calling for chaos, he was building coherence. The state responded accordingly. Hampton was drugged, raided, and killed in his bed by law enforcement during a pre-dawn operation coordinated with federal intelligence. Subsequent investigations revealed the role of surveillance, infiltration, and preemptive neutralization. His death was not the result of panic, misunderstanding, or rogue behavior. It was the predictable outcome of a system responding to the emergence of organized cross-racial black power. This book advances a single thesis. White elites fear black power not because of violence or hatred, but because coherent black self-determination threatens control over labor, capital, political legitimacy, and narrative authority. That fear is not emotional, it is strategic. To understand it, black power must also be defined precisely in this book. Black power is not a slogan or a posture. It is a condition. It exists when black communities can define themselves, organize independently, control capital, influence political outcomes, and transmit knowledge without external commission. When these conditions converge, resistance follows, not primarily from the public, but from institutions designed to preserve stability as currently structured. Fear at the level of power does not appear as outrage or hysteria. It appears as legislation, surveillance programs, sentencing disparities, school funding formulas, media distortion, and economic exclusion. It operates quietly, bureaucratically, and often under the language of neutrality, safety, or order. As black power becomes more coordinated and durable, these mechanisms become more refined. Religion historically helped disguise these mechanisms by moralizing obedience and spiritualizing injustice. Religious frameworks of